Welcome to Stonefield Query's Knowledge Center, where we help you take the mystery out of reporting. In today's presentation, Doug Hennig will take us through an ACPAC overview. Let's proceed to Doug's presentation.
Stonefield Query for Sage ACPAC ERP is an easy-to-use query and report writing tool specifically designed for Sage ACPAC ERP. In this video, we'll show you an overview of the features of Stonefield Query. Let's start our exploration of Stonefield Query for Sage ACPAC ERP by looking at the Reports Explorer. The Reports Explorer shows a list of the reports that are available on the system, and they're organized by folder to make them easy to find. Over at the right, we have information about the selected report, including when it was created by whom, when it was last modified, when it was last run, any comments about it, and so on. Also over at the right is a sample page where we can see what this report looked like the last time it was run. Let's create a new report. I'm going to click on the New button, and the Report Types dialog comes up. Stonefield Query has several different report types. A quick report is a row and column style report and is the most frequently used report type. A cross tabulation are for doing crosstabs or pivot tables like you might do in Excel. Label can be used for things like address labels, barcode labels, product labels, name badges, and so on. Chart reports can be used for doing things like pie charts, bar graphs, etc. Let's start with a quick report, so I'll choose OK. The quick report wizard comes up. Step 1 is some information about the report. First of all, I'll give it a report name of My Sales Report. By default, Stonefield Query will put this report into whatever folder you had selected in the Reports Explorer, but of course you can choose a different folder from the drop-down list. I'll pick Reports instead. Next, we choose the module we want the data for the report to come from. This shows a list of all the modules you have activated in ACPAC. I'll choose Accounts Receivable. Comments would be anything you want to see back in the Reports Explorer whenever this report is selected, and it usually contains information such as when the report gets run, how frequently it's used, things like that. So we'll just put in a simple comment, this is a sales report. Click on the Next button. Step 2 is the big one. This is where we tell Stonefield Query what should appear in the report. And the thing to keep in mind is that we're going to tell it what we want, not how to go and get it from the database as you have to with other reporting tools. The first thing you notice is that we see nice descriptive names for all of our tables and fields, names that are meaningful rather than those real table and field names such as ARCUS and ARIBTH. Let's start with customers. One of the things you'll notice with the customers table, as with other tables, is that optional fields actually appear right within the table. If you're familiar with how ACPAC stores optional fields, you realize that there are two different tables involved with keys and joins and so on. With Stonefield Query, we make those optional fields appear right in the table that you'd expect them to be. So it's very easy to query against optional fields, just as easy as it is with any other field in the original table. Let's start with the customer name, and we're next going to report on invoices. So here we'll get the document number, the invoice date, and the document total including tax. If you're not sure what a particular field contains, you can always select the field and then click on the Values button to see a list of distinct values for that field. Also, you might decide that you don't want to show all the tables and fields in ACPAC. If your database doesn't use all of the data that's available, you can click on the Show Only Favorites button here, and that will then reduce the number of tables and fields that are visible to only those that contain meaningful data. At any point as you're creating your report, if you want to see what the report will look like, simply hit the Preview button. Stonefield Query will do a live query against your database and show the results in a preview window. So here's the results showing us the information that we've asked for. However, this report is not organized very well. There doesn't appear to be any kind of sorting or grouping, there's no subtotals, and so on. So let's close the preview window and change a few things. The way that you change how a field appears in the report is either by double-clicking it or selecting it and choosing Properties. Either way, you get a Properties dialog where you can control how this field appears, such as the column heading, the width, and so on. What I'm going to do with the customer name field is, on the grouping page, turn on Group on this field, because by grouping by the customer name, we can see all the invoices for that customer together. I'm going to choose OK, and we'll also change the properties for the document total field. That column heading is fairly wide, so let's go and change it to something simpler, like just total. On the Format page, I want to turn on Sum. That tells Stonefield Query that we want to see subtotals at each group break and grand totals at the end of the report. Let's choose OK and run the report again. And this time the report is organized the way we'd like it to be. Here are all the invoices for Acme Plumbing and the total, Bargain Mart, and so on. In order to run this report, Stonefield Query had to join two different tables. But you'll notice I didn't specify any join information anywhere, and nor did I need to. I don't have to know anything about the SQL language or joins or foreign keys. I simply tell Stonefield Query what I want, and it gives me the results that I need. It automatically knows how to join all of the ACPAC tables. Now, the issue with this report is that it's showing every record in the entire database, which is not something you typically want. So let's close this preview window and go to the next step, which is filtering. I'm going to click on the filter button. We'll add a condition. I'm only interested in those items that were invoiced in a certain date range. So I'll choose the invoice date field. You notice that we have nice English expressions for our operators. Equals, does not equal, is greater than, and so on. I'm going to choose is between because that's pretty handy for dates. I'm only interested in those items ordered in 2009. So I'll put in my date range. You can either type the date or choose it from a drop-down calendar. So I'll pick December of 2009 and pick the 31st. Now this would be fine. This would give me those items that were invoiced in 2009. But the next time I run the report, it might be a different date range that I'm interested in. And I wouldn't want to have to go and modify the filter condition all the time. So I'm going to choose Ask at Runtime. That tells Stonefield Query that I want to be prompted for the date range whenever I run this report. I'm going to choose OK. You can see our filter condition is a nice English expression here. We could add other conditions, but we'll just stick with this one for now. So I'll choose OK. When we run the report, because I turned on Ask at Runtime, Stonefield Query prompts me for the date range. We can either put in the new dates, we can accept the default dates, we can even choose to ignore the condition for this particular run. I'm just going to choose OK to accept the default dates, and now we only get 29 records, and here's the result. And you notice the filter condition is shown again as a nice English expression here in the page header. We can also exclude records. For example, give me a list of all customers we didn't contact last year so that we can reconnect with them. The Databases button allows you to query against multiple databases at the same time. When you click on this, it brings up a list of the different ACPAC companies. I can choose additional companies. It will show the invoices from all of these companies on the same report. The next step is sorting. You can see that this report is initially sorted by customer name because that's how we grouped it. But within customer name, we could sort it by invoice date. You can change the sort to ascending or descending order. We can also have multiple levels of sorts. The next step is formatting. You can specify a header and footer for each page. In the case of orientation, automatic means that Stonefield Query will automatically change the orientation to landscape if it's too wide for portrait. A nice feature you don't find in other reporting tools. However, if you want to, you can force it to particular orientation. Template's another nice feature. If I choose a different template, such as Ledger, and run the report again, and specify my filter condition, this time the report looks different. Now we see gray bands over top of every second detail line, and dark boxes over top of the group headers. Templates are a nice feature that allow you to control the appearance of the report. We provide a number of built-in templates, but we also provide a template editor, so you can modify those templates or even create your own custom templates. The last step when you're creating a report is security. By default, everyone has access to this report, but that may not be appropriate for all report types. So we can remove everyone from the list and indicate that, for example, maybe only managers have access to this report. Now that I'm done designing my report, I simply have to hit Finish, and that report gets saved in the Reports Explorer. And there's my report, ready to run whenever we need it to run. You can schedule the selected report to run at a particular time. From the Tools menu, choose Schedule Report. Suppose we have our sales report that we want to run at 3 o'clock every morning and have it automatically emailed to the division managers so it's sitting in their inboxes when they come in the next morning. We can choose to run the report daily, weekly, or monthly, and at what time. If we choose daily, then on the next step we can choose the schedule settings such as every day, weekdays, or only every so many days. If we choose monthly instead, then we can choose whether it's the second day of the month or the third Wednesday and which months. The third step is where the output should go. We can have the output sent to a printer, to a file, or emailed to one or more people. This report will then run at the desired schedule and automatically send the output as indicated. See how easy it is to create a label. I'll choose Label from the New menu. All of the steps of the label wizard are the same as they are for the quick report wizard. It's just that the output will look a little bit different. Let's call this customer labels. This will come from accounts receivable. And as with the other wizards, in step 2, I choose the fields that I want. So we'll choose customers, and we'll start with the customer name and the contact name and a couple of lines of address and the city, state, zip. When we hit preview, rather than being laid out in a row and column style, we get a label layout instead. You notice that some of the lines have automatically been removed. Any place where there was a missing address to line, for example, rather than showing a blank line, which would look kind of odd, Stonefield Query automatically removes those blank lines. Now, you'll notice that this is using a 2-up label. What if we wanted to use a 3-up label instead? With other report designers, we'd have to move fields around, change page dimensions, and so on. With Stonefield Query, it's very easy. The next step is filtering, so maybe we're only interested in those customers in San Francisco. The next step is sorting, so we can have it come up by zip code or by customer name. Step 5 is formatting, but you'll notice that because these are labels, things like header and footer don't apply. What does apply, though, is the label style. Stonefield Query has all of the different Avery numbers built into it. So you can simply choose from the drop-down list the style that you want. I'll choose an Avery 5160, which is a 3-up label. When we preview the report again, now our labels are laid out in a 1-inch high 3-up label. The last step is security, same as it was for the other report styles. Let's create a chart. Rather than clicking on the new button, I'm going to click on the drop-down arrow beside the new button to pop down a menu of the different report types. I'll choose a chart report. Like the quick report wizard, we start by telling it what we want to call this report. I'll call it Sales by Salesperson Chart. I'm going to stick with the reports folder, but this time I'm going to choose the order entry module. In the next step, we choose the fields that we want. So I want to show sales by salesperson. I'm going to start with a salesperson name, and I'm going to go to invoices and choose the total amount. I also want the invoice date as well. In the next step, because this is a chart, we have to tell Stonefield Query what to chart where. I'll put the total amount in the y-axis, with the salesperson name in the x-axis, and I want to show a chart with different series for each year. So I'll put the invoice date in the series, but I don't want to show individual dates. Instead, I want to show the year portion. So I'll bring up the properties dialog for the date, and I'll change how the date should be displayed to year. As with a quick report, at any point we can simply click on preview to see what our chart looks like. And here's our chart showing sales by salesperson by year. In step 4, we can make the report look nicer. For example, we can specify a different chart type, such as an area chart, or a line chart, or a pie chart, and so on. We can also indicate what the title should be for the various parts of the chart. We can change the axis and indicate whether we want to have major or minor grid lines. On the legend page, we can add a gradient to the legend. We can also indicate what should be shown in the legend, such as checkboxes to turn on or off different series. We can make it into a 3D chart. We can change the labels. For example, we might want to rotate the labels on the x-axis to the 45-degree angle so that way they don't overlap as much. We can specify that we want to have a border, make it shadowed and have a different color for it, for example, and make it a little thicker. On the background page, we can indicate that we want to have a gradient for the chart. So using all of these various controls, we can indicate how this chart should be formatted. The rest of the steps in the chart wizard are the same as they are for the quick report wizard. So we have filtering, including exclude filters and databases, and we have security. Again, once I'm finished designing my chart, I simply hit finish, and that chart's in my reports list, ready to run whenever I need it to. Crosstab reports allow you to analyze your data. Let's create a report that shows a sales breakdown of sales by product. So we'll choose Cross-Tabulation Report from the new menu. The first couple steps of the Crosstab wizard are similar to what we've seen before. First step is what we want to call the report. I'll call this Sales by Salesperson and Product. And this will come out of order entry. In step 2, we want to show salesperson. So I'll grab the name, and we'll go to Invoice Details, and we'll choose the description of the product, and the extended amount. Step 3, we have to tell Stonefield Query what to put where in the crosstab. So I'll put the name in the row, we'll put the description in the columns, and we'll put the ship price in the data area. When I run the report, Stonefield Query slices and dices the data so that we get a crosstab showing product sales by salesperson and by product name, so we can see which salespeople are selling which products. If we go to the last page of the report, we can see that there are both column totals showing total sales by product and row totals showing total sales by salesperson. There's a lot more to Stonefield Query than we covered in this video. Be sure to download a demo from our website, www.stonefieldquery.com, and try it out with your own data. Thanks for watching this video, and have a great day.
Thank you for watching today's presentation with Doug Hennig.